Mark, thanks very much. I'm joined by Congressman Tim Scott, the Republican from South Carolina. He's a freshman, member of the House leadership, and also Congressman Jim Himes, a Democrat from Connecticut, to talk about the budget battle, what's playing out on the floor here on the House of Representatives, but also what's happening in the Senate today. Congressman Scott, let me begin with you.
Yes.
Your cut, cap, and balance plan on the floor today would raise the debt ceiling, but includes a host of provisions. The president's already said, listen, I'm going to veto this. Is this the best use of the House's time to debate this bill today?
Absolutely, man. I think the American people sent a very clear message on November 2nd, and that was get your fiscal house in order. Cut, cap, and balance is something that actually heads in that direction. Without any question, 49 out of the 50 states have to have a balanced budget. We believe that the American people are asking the federal government to do the same.
Is it unreasonable, Congressman Himes, for Republicans to put on the floor a piece of legislation that would obligate the federal government to balance its books like the states do?
Well, the cut, cap, and balance plan is anything but reasonable, right? It's taking us back to a vision of the federal government before we had baby boomers retiring, before we decided to have the premier military in the world. Look, no serious economic observer is saying that this is a smart way forward for the country. What's interesting now, of course, is that we're seeing action over in the Senate now around a deal, a $4 trillion 10-year deal that the president has cautiously supported. Mike Crapo, Tom Coburn, Republican senators who give up nothing in the world of fiscal responsibility are saying this may be the way to go. So, look, I think what you're seeing on the House floor is what you've seen for the last 6 months on the House floor, which is a lot of communication to the Tea Party. But the action is really over in the Senate right now with guys like Tom Coburn saying here's the way forward.
Congressman Scott, I know you don't know all the details about
Absolutely
the Senate plan, but what do you make of what you're hearing from the Senate?
Well, what I'll say is simply that we'll look at anything that does not include tax increases. So bottom line is when we're talking about a way for us to improve the fiscal outlook of this country, the Democrats consistently want to talk about one thing and one thing only, and it's been tax increases. I know that the gang of six seems to be back together looking for ways to find alternatives to either the cut, cap, and balance or the McConnell plan. Good news is they're still working. Bad news is they're running out of time. So I hope in the next 10 or 12 days we'll have an opportunity to take a look at the plan, which we have not seen yet.
Does it suggest to you anything that you've got some prominent Republicans like Mike Crapo, like Tom Coburn, who have been pretty known as fiscal hawks in this Capitol, supporting this kind of proposal? Does it raise any hope for you that your fellow House colleagues could be convinced?
It certainly seems to me that what we're hearing from the president and the senators is that they're finally at the table getting serious about this negotiation. So I'm looking forward to seeing it in the House. We have not seen it. I look forward to seeing it. And once we do have an opportunity to digest it, we'll be in a position to make a comment one way or the other.
Congressman Himes, you worked on Wall Street for a time. You know we're 2 weeks away from this debt ceiling deadline, August 2nd. Markets aren't punishing the United States yet, but it's only a matter of time, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is only a matter of time. And I've said from the beginning that any public official who wants to use raising the debt ceiling as a chip, as a poker chip, in achieving some ideological or political goal is doing something profoundly hypocritical. Look, people in this chamber have voted for spending increases and tax cuts. Both of those things require the assumption of debt. So to turn around and vote for those things and then say, but I'm not going to raise the debt ceiling, not only does it make no sense, but eventually we're going to lose the confidence of the capital markets. And that's a profoundly dangerous thing to do.
Let me say this, I'll tell you. If we're not already losing the common sense approach to governing, I'm not sure how much faster we can lose it. There's no question the American people are asking for some very simple things. Let's cut our spending. If we're going to increase our debt ceiling, cut your spending by a proportionate amount. If we're going to talk about ways to control our spending, let's cap the ability to spend money. Republicans and Democrats have one thing in common in Washington. They both spend too much. It is time for us to get our fiscal house in order, and a balanced budget will help us do that.
Congressman, what would you say to those who out there watching on our air today who say that they do not see the kind of bend from House Republicans, even from freshman House Republicans, on some of these issues that they've seen, perhaps even from the president, perhaps even from Senate Republicans?
Well, I would say this. I think the fact of the matter is many of us ran for Congress, and we simply said this. There is no way for us to realistically increase the debt ceiling. Now, because of the crisis in our country, we have come to the table with a very specific, delineated plan on how to do just that. So some folks who ran in total opposition to the debt ceiling being increased are now at the table. They are saying that it is more important for us to look at the future of America and find a plan that actually reduces spending while balancing our budget and increasing the debt ceiling.
Undoubtedly, there are going to be some House Democrats who aren't going to like the Gang of Six plan. They're going to not like some of the entitlement program changes. Can we be so certain House Democrats will be there at the end of the day?
Well, look, the Gang of Six plan will undoubtedly, if it passes, and I hope that something like it does, because frankly, we should do the hard work of getting and make the tough choices and not take anything off the table the way the Republicans have done with tax increases. We should make the hard choices. But if that deal gets done, it's going to get done with moderate Republicans and moderate Democrats. And look, there are people in both caucuses that aren't going to support it. But the underlying principle of where we are today, if we're going to fix this country, has got to be everything's on the table. And the president has gotten there. He terrified members of the Democratic Party by saying, I'll talk about Medicare and Social Security. Unfortunately, on the other side, as you just heard Congressman Scott said, the answer is, well, we'll talk about everything, but we're not going to talk about taxes.
It does seem like my good friend on the Democrat side is speaking a lot of hogwash. They came to the table without any question with one thing and one thing only, and they said, we must increase taxes. And we came to the table with one thing and one thing only, and we said we will not increase taxes. So the fact of the matter is both of us have things that we believe that are unequivocally not consistent with our philosophies. We both are now at the table talking about those very things that both sides said they would not do. I believe that we should hold to our guns. We should find a way to make sure that this country is in better shape when we leave and not consistently kick the can down the table by talking about some future cuts with now having current tax increases.
Peter, those of us who live in reality know that the president said, I will agree to trillions of dollars in cuts, and the president said, I'll talk about Medicare, and the president said, I'll talk about Social Security. So this non-reality-based universe that says that we come with...
the last word, as you suggested.
Both of you will get to debate this evening.
The real world that he gets to live in is an alternate universe that doesn't exist anywhere in a three-dimensional Earth.
Mark, this is clearly a debate that is not yet over here in the House of Representatives, not yet over in Congress, and of course, the deadline towards that debt ceiling default date continues August 2nd.